Maya Sharma woke up to the soft whir of the ceiling fan spinning above her. Morning sunlight slipped through the partly closed blinds, casting faint lines on the walls of their small apartment. Her husband, Rohan, already dressed, sat quietly at the edge of the bed, tying his shoelaces with calm, careful movements. "Breakfast's on the table," he said, without turning to look at her. "Thanks," Maya replied softly, watching his back. Lately, their conversations felt like checklists, short, cold, and only about what needed to be said. Their lives had changed. The joy they used to share, those late-night talks, spontaneous road trips, had faded. Now their days passed with long silences, shared meals in front of screens, and barely any real connection. Rohan was still thoughtful in his actions, always doing what was expected, but the warmth she once felt from him now seemed distant, like a door that had quietly closed behind her. At the office, things felt different. The energy was lighter, livelier. People joked, shared music, and gathered for short meetings that made the day feel less heavy. Among the clicking of keyboards and the smell of fresh coffee, Maya met someone new, Arjun Mehta. Arjun Mehta wasn't the type to grab attention right away. He had a quiet charm, always dressed neatly, his sleeves casually rolled up, his smile more thoughtful than flashy. He worked in sales, 2 floors above Maya's HR department, but somehow, he often found reasons to stop by. Their first real conversation happened at the office printer. It was stuck, again, and Arjun made a dry comment about the outdated machines. "You'd think a company this size could buy a printer that doesn't eat paper for breakfast," he joked. Maya laughed, caught off guard by how funny she found it. "Maybe it's just cutting carbs," she replied, grinning. That short moment, small and easy to overlook, was the quiet start of something new, something they never quite labeled. Over the next few weeks, they kept running into each other. Sometimes it felt planned, other times just chance. A quick ride in the elevator. A cup of coffee shared during a break. One Sunday afternoon, a message arrived. From Rohan. "I'm going to be in the city next weekend. Can we talk?" Maya stared at the screen for a long time before replying. Her fingers hovered, hesitant but sure enough to type, "Yes, I'd like that tea." Not because she believed everything could be mended over a cup, but because healing needed a beginning. And sometimes, beginnings looked exactly like old endings wearing new clothes. She didn't expect clarity. Or absolution. She only hoped for honesty. As the day wore on, Maya stood by the window, watching. The wind played gently with the curtains. The apartment, once echoing with absence, now felt still, but not hollow. She exhaled slowly. The silence around her wasn't loneliness anymore. It was possibility. Not a conclusion, not quite a resolution, but the faintest shape of hope, fragile and real. And that, perhaps, was enough. Closing remarks. Thank you for joining us on this quiet, complicated, and deeply human journey through the fragile intersections of love, longing, and truth. Maya's story is not about heroes or villains, it is about choices, consequences, and the courage to sit with uncertainty. In a world that often demands resolution, we hope this narrative reminded you that growth sometimes comes not from answers, but from the questions we dare to ask ourselves. Vote of thanks. We extend heartfelt thanks to everyone who engaged with this story with empathy and openness. To those who saw reflections of their own lives between the lines, thank you for reading with grace. To the creators, editors, and supporters who helped shape this into more than words on a page, your contributions are valued beyond measure. Disclaimer. This story is a work of fiction. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, is purely coincidental. The narrative explores sensitive themes including infidelity, emotional conflict, and personal transformation, intended to provoke thought and conversation, not to prescribe actions or judgments. Readers are encouraged to engage with these themes respectfully and thoughtfully, understanding that real-life situations are always more complex and nuanced. One morning, Maya found a cup of coffee waiting on her desk, something she hadn't asked for. A sticky note was attached, "Try this." No sugar, just like you said. It was a small gesture, but it made her pause. What started as quick chats soon turned into longer conversations. 5 minutes became 10, then 15, until someone came by with actual work. Arjun listened in a way Maya hadn't felt in a long time. He asked her opinion during a joint project, remembered the author she once mentioned loving, even noticed when she wore her hair differently. Rohan didn't notice those things anymore. He didn't comment on her hair, her clothes, or the little things she did to keep some romance alive at home. One Friday afternoon, while going over a performance report in the conference room, Maya spoke without thinking too hard. Sometimes I feel like I live 2 lives, she said quietly. One at home. One here. Arjun didn't react in a way that made her regret saying it. He closed the folder slowly and looked at her, not in a prying way, but with a calm understanding that caught her off guard. Which one feels more like you? He asked gently. She didn't answer. She didn't need to. That evening, long after the office had cleared and only the cleaning crew was left, Maya sat at her desk, staring at her phone. Rohan had texted her, just a reminder to pick up detergent. No, how was your day? No, miss you. Just detergent. She looked at the message until the words blurred. As Arjun walked past her on his way out, he paused, then said, you should get some rest. You look heavy today. Yeah, she said softly. It's been a long week, Maya said quietly. Arjun nodded, then paused. Want to grab a coffee? He asked. Just as 2 co-workers who survived a brutal HR audit? Maya thought about it. For a second, it felt harmless, just 2 colleagues unwinding after a tough day. But her heart picked up speed. It wasn't guilt that made it race, it was something else. Excitement. The thrill of being seen. I shouldn't, she said, offering a small, polite smile. Maybe another time. He didn't push. Just smiled softly and said, all right. Take care, Maya, then walked away. As she packed up her things, she caught her reflection in the dark window. Something in her own eyes looked unfamiliar, part curiosity, part ache. That night, lying next to Rohan in the same bed they'd shared for years, Maya stared up at the ceiling. She listened to his steady breathing. A part of her wanted to reach out, to say something, anything, to close the distance between them. But her hand rested on her stomach, still and unsure. And in that silence, something began to grow. It wasn't betrayal, not yet. But it was a deep, aching need. A longing to be seen. To be heard. To feel alive again. The coffee invitation came again, this time on a Wednesday evening after a late meeting. Maya paused, but only briefly, before nodding. Most of the office had emptied. Outside, the streets were wrapped in the quiet gold of a setting sun. They walked together to a small cafe around the corner, one with low lights and the warm scent of cinnamon in the air. Arjun ordered for both of them. No sugar, just like before. They talked easily, the conversation flowing without effort. They touched on movies, childhood memories, thoughts on leadership, and the quirks of working in a big company. But underneath the laughter, something deeper was taking shape, an emotional closeness neither of them had named, but both clearly felt. I haven't laughed like this in a long time, Maya said, stirring her coffee without sipping it. Same, Arjun replied, eyes holding hers. It's strange, isn't it? How 2 people can just click. She smiled, then looked away. Her wedding ring caught the light, quiet but undeniable. They walked back in the dark. A soft rain had begun to fall, light enough to ignore until it wasn't. As it picked up, they took cover under the awning of a closed bookstore. Close. Too close. Maya stood still, her heartbeat rising with every moment of silence between them. The street lamp lit Arjun's face just enough for her to see the quiet tension in his expression. You're shivering, he said gently. I'm fine, she whispered. Even though she said she was fine, Maya wasn't. Not because of the cold, but because something inside her had shifted. And then, without warning or hesitation, the distance between them simply disappeared. The kiss wasn't rushed. It unfolded slowly, as if it had been waiting for years. Her hands found his shoulders like it was second nature. His thumb brushed gently against her cheek. When they finally pulled apart, neither of them said a word. The rain had lightened, but inside her, a storm had only just begun. That night, Maya drove home on autopilot. She sat in her car outside the building for 15 minutes, staring blankly at the dashboard. When she finally walked in, Rohan was on the couch, watching the news with a bowl of cereal in his hand. "You're late," he said without looking up. "Yeah, meetings ran over," she replied, her voice calm, steady, too steady. The lie settled on her like wet clothes, heavy, clinging, deeply uncomfortable, but not enough to take off. In the days that followed, what she had with Arjun grew. It was no longer just fleeting glances or harmless jokes. They shared quiet lunches tucked away in corners. Late-night texts that lingered long after they should have stopped. Touches that passed as accidents but meant more than they should. There was a thrill in the secrecy, a current of quiet electricity that made even the most ordinary office days feel alive. But with the growing passion came guilt. It crept in without warning, in sharp, unexpected waves. Sometimes she'd catch her reflection mid-laugh while standing near Arjun. And just for a second, the guilt would stab through the joy like a silent alarm. Her first instinct was to deny. But something in Rohan's voice, calm, quiet, defeated, made her stop. "He's someone from work," she said. "That's not what I asked." The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was dense. Heavy with all the things they didn't want to say out loud. She sat down. Set the mug carefully on the table. "I didn't plan for it. I didn't wake up one day looking for something else." Rohan's voice was low. "Did you fall in love with him?" Maya looked away. "I don't know." He nodded slowly. "How long?" "Months." Rohan closed his eyes, as if bracing for an impact that never came, yet hurt all the same. When he finally spoke, his voice didn't rise. "I thought you were pulling away because of stress. I didn't realize it was because you were already gone." "I wasn't gone," she whispered. "Not at first." That night, Rohan packed a small bag and left. He didn't say for how long. The door clicked shut behind him. With a softness that felt crueler than any scream. Left alone in the quiet apartment, Maya wandered the rooms. Like a guest in someone else's story. She picked up their wedding photo. Her fingers traced the smile she once wore. With such certainty. Arjun called. She didn't answer. She needed air. Space. Silence. The next morning, she sat on a bench in the park. 2 blocks from their building. A notebook in her lap. For the first time, she tried to write it all down. Not to justify, but to confess. She listed what she had lost, what she had found, and what now felt achingly impossible to understand. When Arjun finally found her the following evening, he approached quietly, hesitantly, his face drawn with concern. 16:08, some evenings. She cooked for one. Lit a candle anyway. Sat at the table without her phone. Present. 16:14, her grief didn't vanish. But it softened. Edges less sharp. A dull ache instead of a wound. 16:19, letters unsent sat in her drawer. To Rohan. To Arjun. To herself. 16:24. One read. I'm sorry I waited until breaking to speak. I'm learning now that silence, too, can betray. 16:30, another simply said. I don't know what I want yet. But I want it to be mine. 1636, months passed. And one quiet Sunday, Rohan called. 1640, not with accusations. Not with demands. 1642, just a question. How are you? 1645, Maya paused. Hand tightening around her mug. 1648, better, she said. Not fixed. Just, clearer. 1652, there was a long silence on the line. Then, I'd like to talk sometime. No expectations. Just, talk. 1659, she nodded, even though he couldn't see it. I'd like that. 1703, after the call. She didn't cry. She didn't rejoice. 1706, she breathed. Long and full. Like someone coming up for air. Sometimes, while folding Rohan's laundry, Maya would pause and wonder, what would he say if he knew? Some nights, she couldn't sleep. Other nights, she didn't want to. Then one Saturday, Arjun suggested a short trip out of town. Just a day, he said. Somewhere no one knows us. She said no at first. But the idea lingered. It whispered of escape. Of quiet. Of him. They went the following weekend. The day was filled with soft sunlight and winding roads. And for a little while, reality felt distant. They walked hand in hand, not caring who might see. They stopped at a roadside dhaba, sharing dal and jeera rice, laughing between bites. Her phone buzzed once, Rohan's name flashed across the screen. She turned it face down. Later, in the quiet of the hotel room, time seemed to slow. Arjun kissed her forehead first, as if asking silently, can this be real? Can I be more than just a passing dream? They undressed each other slowly, gently, with care. Not rushed or reckless. But with the kind of reverence that made it feel less like a secret, and more like something sacred. Afterward, Maya lay beneath the thin sheets, staring up at the unfamiliar ceiling. She felt alive in a way she hadn't in years. And completely lost. Arjun turned to her, his voice soft. I meant it, you know. I've never felt like this before. She met his eyes, her breath catching for a second. I believe you, she whispered. But belief wasn't the same as certainty. Back in the city, the space between her two lives grew wider. She began dressing more carefully, arriving at the office earlier, smiling more often. There was a new lightness in her step, something people noticed, even if they didn't understand it. Yet at home, Maya grew quieter. Rohan noticed the shift, but misunderstood it. You've been distant lately, he said one evening. I'm just tired, she replied. He nodded. Let me know if I can help. She almost laughed. Not cruelly, just brokenly. He didn't know. He couldn't help. Not now. That night, Arjun sent a voice note. I think I'm falling for you. Maya listened to it twice. Then deleted it. Not because she didn't feel something. But because she did. And for the first time since their kiss. She let the question surface. Where is this going? The unraveling didn't come with shouting or slammed doors. It arrived quietly. As most truths do. It began with a receipt. Tucked absent-mindedly into her laptop sleeve. A small restaurant outside the city. A date that didn't match any known work trip. A name scribbled across the top. Arjun Mehta. Rohan didn't say anything that night. Instead, he made dinner, a rarity these days. And watched her. Carefully. Over the rim of his glass. Maya noticed. The way he studied her. Like a man trying to solve an equation whose variables had inexplicably changed. The next morning, he said it plainly. Who is Arjun? Maya froze mid-step. The coffee sloshed slightly in her mug.